Who is the voice of neurofeedback? If it's not the BCIA, then who?
I think that ISNR, more than anybody, has done an excellent job of advocacy for neurofeedback. Uh, they're not the only voice, but they undoubtedly are the most authoritative voice. AAPB, Association for Applied Psychophysiology and Biofeedback, is another source of advocacy, but AAPB advocates for all the modalities. Now, let me be clear. ISNR clearly is HRV friendly, the other modalities friendly. I think we have gotten past the point where it's one modality versus another, but rather let me have more crayons to color with rather than just the red one.
Yep.
One of the most inspiring talks was delivered by Michael and Linda Thompson a number of years ago when they received the Distinguished Scientist Award for AAPB. And the takeaway from that was we need to be open to using multiple modalities, that in some cases it may make more sense to start out with HRV biofeedback and then progress to neurofeedback. But it isn't a matter of my modality is better than your modality. It's rather, here are tools, let's use them for assessment and for training the best way we can for this unique client.
Welcome to NeuroNoodle's Neurofeedback and Neuropsychology podcast, featuring neurofeedback legend Jay Gunkelman and Sebern Fisher, the author of Neurofeedback and the Treatment of Developmental Trauma, Calming the Fear-Driven Brain. Our goal is to provide information and promote options for better mental health. My name is Pete, and today we have very, very special guests. Our old buddy John Anderson from Minnesota came on by, and we have owner of BioSource Software, Fred Shaffer, and psychologist John Davis. But before we get to the BioSource team, we'd like to take this time to share some Patreon love to our Patreon business supporters. We are supported by listeners and businesses just like you, like our gold supporter, Applied Neuroscience Incorporated, the creators of NeuroGuide, the premier EEG assessment and training software whose demo version can be downloaded from the link here. Hey, attend ANI's pre-conference workshop at the ISNR 2022 conference Wednesday, July 27th between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. The workshop will concentrate on assessment and protocol preparation using the Neuro Navigator and the symptom checklist, which includes cerebellar ROIs and uses SW Loretta for more precise targeting and cross-frequency coupling. Training will be introduced. And hey, if you want a coupon code, email Pete at neuronoodle.com. I'll hook you up. Learn more at appliedneuroscience.com/neuroguide. Hey, thanks to our silver supporters, Mary Tracy's awesome QEEG training program at eegstrategies.com and Mind Media's Nexus EEG amplifier. Welcome aboard, Erwin. They're at mindmedia.com. 3 things our listeners can do to help us spread the word of neurofeedback. Number 1, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Number 2, give us a review on whatever platform you listen to. 5 stars is appreciated, but Jay Gunkelman will accept 4.5. Hey, if you have the means, please support us on Patreon/NeuroNoodle. There are different levels in which you can support us, whether you're a mom or dad or a clinician. There's even an option where you can have your own Q&A with our own Jay Gunkelman. This support helps us improve the quality of our content. Hey, trying to get these video edits even better. Welcome to the show, John Anderson, Fred Shaffer, and John Davis. Welcome, BioSource Software team, to the show. Now, John Anderson, we are old buddies. We've had you on the show a few times. Could you introduce the team that you brought with you this time? You brought the big guns.
Yeah. Well, Fred Shaffer developed BioSource Software, and I don't know the entire history of it, but it's a massive undertaking. And he's done in addition to BioSource Software, which we're going to talk about, he's done an amazing amount for the field of biofeedback. He's been around for a long time. He's been on the boards of AAPB and BCIA, and he's a guiding light in the field. Fortunate to have him on the show today, and I've been fortunate to know Fred for quite a long time, 13, 14 years now.
Yes.
And he and I sat down at dinner one time at a conference, and he was talking about, biofeedback tutor and some of the other tutors that he's developed in an online platform. And I said, hey, let's make a neurofeedback tutor. And 13 years later, we just got that certified by BCIA, and with the help of John Davis, who came on with us and spurred us on to excellence, because he's the guy who really does the close work. He looks at it and says, let's spruce that up a bit. He's a little bit like Neil Young with the Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young folks, which Neil Young would come in and say, this sounds like crap. Let's redo that. So anyway.
John Davis said that. He said that our tutorial looked like crap.
I'm the latecomer
over
Canadian. The latecomer Canadian to the party at BioSource.
Fred is a shining light, and he's developed all this amazing educational material for the field. And he's got biofeedback tutor, HRV tutor. Now we've got neurofeedback tutor, and I'll let him continue to explain all the products that BioSource Software is host for.
Let me give you a little background. BioSource Software began in 1978. I developed it originally to provide material for my campus classes and to educate the field. I didn't know a whole lot then. I still have a great deal to learn. And when I get into fields like neurofeedback and QEEG, I realize that I'm privileged to be allowed to even spell those terms. That's why I brought on John Anderson and John Davis. I have zero street cred in the neurofeedback or QEEG field. I am basically a production person and copy editor for John and John. I have a little more background in what's traditionally called biofeedback and HRV biofeedback. I feel comfortable spelling those terms. In the background, of course, I'm always frightened what someone as experienced as Jay or Sebern would say if they looked at what we produce. Although it's been my experience, I know Jay, that Jay is very kind and very forgiving to people who aren't pompous. And for those people, they can expect to be deflated instantly.
Well, we're all students, so we all have to give each other a little leeway on things and move everybody forward in the right direction is all.
Yeah.
So
a little grace. It does not hurt to be kind. And so the purpose of BioSource is to get what we hope to be quality educational materials out to the field at ridiculously low prices. So that when we compare our courses to offerings from vendors who are also accredited, our product might cost, say, $150 as opposed to $750. And the reason we can do that is that I have a
That's a customer right there.
Well,
boy, this is a powerful podcast, Fred.
Whoa! I have done so much to drive my business. So we're trying to get affordable materials out there that are every bit as up to date and probably more so and as polished as those of our competitors.
It's kind of hard with this show because we speak to moms and dads, we speak to clinicians, we speak to techs, and we take supporter. It's almost like we're PBS, but not. Because I got my hat out. I'll take $1 here and there, because to get a better video editing and whatnot. But we try not to push certain things. We will talk about supporters, but there's so many choices out there, and people want to know. There's certain people who want to be told what to get and what to do, and we really can't do that. All we can do is bring people on and show the different options of what you have, right? You guys are going to speak to your book. You're passionate about your product. I get it. But, people want, options. And the BioSource team since 78, how do you differentiate from everybody else? Because, we have different people coming on, and obviously they have the best pony in the show.
No.
And then people
We're
get
not going to
confused.
say
They don't
that.
know what to,
No, we're not going to say that. I think it is on the consumer to check it out on their own. And one of the simplest ways is to go to websites, see which courses are BCIA accredited, which is one stamp of quality, and then compare price, but also compare faculty, there's credentials. One advantage that we have when teaching, say, physiological psychology for neurofeedback certification is that's what I do 2 times a year for my university. I've been teaching physiological for perhaps 25 years. I am a biological psychologist. The credentialing matters, but I realize there are many choices that your viewers have. We're not going to say that we are the best product for everyone. We're not. You have to decide what is best for you in terms of price point, in terms of do you need APA continuing education. We have BCIA, but we don't have APA. Maybe the APA is worth an extra $500. When I'm asked, should I purchase the online multimedia tutorial neurofeedback tutor or go to a hands-on workshop, my answer would be, if you can afford the time and the expense of a hands-on workshop, go do it. Don't buy our product. It isn't going to be in your best interest, because there are a number of excellent hands-on workshops that are out there. But there is a market for people who don't have the funds, the time, or are just travel averse right now for online education. And it's my belief that we offer a credible virtual experience that is every bit as good as what our competitors will offer.
Well, and the ultimate choice there between those two choices that Fred just laid out is to do both. Because I kind of see a neurofeedback tutor as being a resource, a reference textbook, if you will, that you might use in a college level course. And it's constantly evolving because we're constantly correcting it and changing and adding to it. And so it's a living, growing organism that people can access and use as a resource in addition to the hands-on class that they went to. The hands-on class is great, but it kind of zooms over your head, and everything you learned in that 4 or 5 days is probably gone in the next week or 2 or 3 or so. And then you can come back to neurofeedback tutor or biofeedback tutor or wherever, and you can refresh all that information, and you can find it over the next years or so that you're learning how to do this task, the neurofeedback, biofeedback, whatever. That's the way I would like to see people doing it. Go to a hands-on course. That's a great experience.
Well, John Anderson, I can attest. I've had to go through your class twice. And
I'm
like,
sorry,
oh,
please
man.
forgive me.
Just like you say, it's like getting a sip of water from a fire hose.
Second what John and Fred are saying about the hands-on courses, having gone to several of them and listened to Jay and Sebern in their courses and read their works. I met Fred when I was being vetted for the BCIA board, and and was very kindly invited to join that board. And when I did, like an unexpected bonus was getting a copy of Fred's biofeedback tutor. And so, like I've gone through that and seen it evolve over the years. But one of the things I wanted to say about it is that the software that BioSource does is, and forgive me for being simple-minded, it's really pretty. And then, it combines like a variety of, media and, glossaries and self-testing methods. And I at the Master University where I've taught, we have this in our medical school, there is like small group problem-based self-directed learning, with a large emphasis on self-directed. So, here's, which is evidence-based and it works really well. So for those people whose style or circumstances necessitate the self-directed learning, this is a really nice, it's a very pretty option and very effective. It's BCIA accredited. So it's solid, scientifically based stuff that, that Sebern and Jay and you would recognize.
Fred, you teach. How do we get more colleges to pick up neurofeedback, at least teaching the techs what to do? How do we get more adoption? Because there's only a couple colleges out there. Is that right, Jay? Saybrook in Texas?
There's a few, but there aren't as many as there used to be. I mean, we've lost laboratories like Barry Sturman's, Aaron Zeidel at UCLA. Both of those were major laboratories that are no longer in existence. Jeannie Bonerhaber Davis in Texas. So we've actually lost, people get older and retire. And our field has been a little long in the tooth. We've had a lot of people like me get to the age of retirement. And we've lost some of the major programs. But it doesn't mean that there aren't programs. I mean, Saybrook is a distance learning accredited university that has APA accredited coursework as well as their own degree programs. Obviously, Fred's, if you're going to judge a group that's doing teaching, look to their damn students. Fred brings dozens sometimes of students to the meetings and national meetings and international meetings. I remember very, very vividly in Rome, we were there during the volcano that shut down air flights. And Fred had students that saved every penny they could possibly scrounge to get there and attend the meeting. And then they're stuck there for an extra week. And they didn't have money for their room. They didn't have money for food. They didn't, they were students. And but they were in Europe. They were presenting their work at an international meeting. What does that look like on your resume? Fred turns out fabulous students, lots of them, and has for a long, long time. He's seeded so many people into the field. He's such a good teacher, so frustrated, he pulls his hair out, So.
Happened years ago.
But I've known Fred since he entered into the field. I did some coursework in San Francisco at the Biofeedback Institute of San Francisco for Dr. Von Bose, and he's been in the field a long time. He actually knew me even before I cut my hair to get a job in the EEG lab. So he's been around for a long time, and I've seen his previous work. I remember Brain Anatomy for Dummies, which he turned out at one point, and you tossed it to me to take a look at and make any critiques, and I was really quite impressed. A lot of people have really superficial knowledge of brain structure and function, and his little tutorial was much deeper than the usual surface gloss. So I've been impressed with his work for a long time.
But if more colleges would be teaching this. Now, I understand you want to go get your bachelor's in psychology. Don't go into a tech. Sebern, I heard you. I'm not saying to do that. But is it possible for like the junior colleges to teach a tech course to get more? Because there's more adoption. That means more need for the software, less fighting between distributors. And, why is there more of that going on?
You need mentors who have the expertise and also the credibility. So you need people, again, I'll make the case, and let me explain or clarify my conflict of interest. I am on the BCI board. So when I advocate for BCI certification, I clearly have a dog in the fight. But I've stayed on the board for as long as I have, for decades, because I believe in its mission. It is a stamp of approval for both training standards as well as practice standards. So we really would want the mentors to be BCI certified. We would want their program, whether for techs or for graduate students. An example would be Alliant University in San Diego, Dick Wirtz's program, or Rutgers, which was Paul Lair's former program. He's a professor emeritus now. We would want the programs to follow the BCI blueprint. And that is what the Texas programs have done. Mark Jones' program followed the BCI blueprint. Jeannie Bodenhammer Davis follows the BCI blueprint, and Jeannie served on the BCI board as well. So that's how you do it. You get BCI certified people. Carmen Rusinello at East Carolina University. And he has been followed by Matt Fish, who has a doctorate and has a program that is particularly focused on veterans and addressing the needs of veterans. So one of the places where I see future growth outside of the traditional university is in the military, as they find it crucial in treating disorders like PTSD.
God bless the veterans. If it's good enough for the veterans, it should be good enough for everybody. Like, what is the obstacle? Okay, I get it, BCIA, but why aren't more colleges saying, okay, give me the BCIA program and let me teach it to get more techs out there? For a psychologist to get an office open, that's a hurdle, number one. Number two, to take this new system in, whatever it is, to figure out the equipment, to figure out the software, and then you got to train somebody to do it. And then whoever you train just left. There isn't like an output of techs out there. And you've been doing it since 78, and it's been helping people for so long. People keep asking me, why isn't it growing faster? What's holding it up? I'm trying to use this platform to remove that obstacle. What's slowing it down?
Higher education is, and even community college education is under great strain right now. Part of it is demographics. There are fewer high school students in the pipeline. More people are opting to go into the workforce. So with budgets under pressure, with fewer bodies, this is not the time that universities typically offer new degree programs or even new tracks or specializations. So there is this pushback that even if you had a faculty member who was certified, it might be difficult to use scarce resources to offer that. I'll give you an example. Truman is the state's leading liberal arts and science, the state of Missouri's leading liberal arts and science university. because of the pandemic, because of the demographic changes, a class that used to be 30 with a waiting list now has about 18.
Mm.
And that's true for a high demand class. I'm not talking about a specialized class. So this is a challenge. This is not the best time to hire new people. When we lose a faculty member to retirement, we do not expect a replacement anytime while I'm still there. So higher education and even community colleges are under that pressure.
Mm.
So, but again, there are bright spots. There is Brigham Young University and the excellent research done by Patrick Steffen, as an example. We've already talked about Sebern, and Sebern does both neurofeedback and biofeedback. So there are bright spots. And then, of course, you have the vendors who, and we have many capable programs.
When I came into the field, which was, this is to your point, I think, Pete, when I came into the field, which was much later on, it was 96, there was still, there was no language that supported the electrical or the frequency domain of understanding the brain. It was all chemical. When I first had the experience of I had to have the experience of neurofeedback for myself to believe that, I mean, to have any access to this new paradigm. And I often say when I'm teaching that I probably never would have listened to somebody like me when I was as a therapist, because I wouldn't have had any clue really about this paradigm. Now, in this period of time, which is like 27 years now, there's been a shift and an increasing awareness of circuitries in the brain as being, you know, the maybe even the vital factor, right? As being promoted by a kind of interface, a chemical circuitry interface. But that's only beginning to become real. And then to the most courageous or the most advanced people in different fields of neuroscience and definitely of psychology, which those have been completely different fields. I'm sorry, John, maybe that's not true for you, but in most places, neuroscience and psychology have, you know, since Freud couldn't put them together, they've been separate units, right? So there's a lot of things that
we are supported by listeners and businesses just like you, like our gold supporter, Applied Neuroscience Incorporated, the creators of NeuroGuide, the premier EEG assessment and training software whose demo version can be downloaded from the link here. Hey, attend ANI's pre-conference workshop at the ISNR 2022 conference Wednesday, July 27th between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. The workshop will concentrate on assessment and protocol preparation using the Neuro Navigator and the symptom checklist, which includes cerebellar ROIs and uses SW Loretta for more precise targeting and cross-frequency coupling. Training will be introduced. And hey, if you want a coupon code, email Pete at neuronoodle.com. I'll hook you up. Learn more at appliedneuroscience.com/neuroguide.
Mitigate against a kind of, let's teach this, because you theoretically could go into any neuroscience department and say, well, let's look at this anew, right? As you guys have changed BioSource over the years, it was because you had new thinking, right? And new experiences that have created new thinking. At least that's been the case for me. So I think there's a lot that in fact, I don't think it's ever going to be, or it's going to be that the universities lead the way in the learning here. It's going to be very important that they exist, and it validates the field, and it gives gravitas to the field. But the way this is coming is through consumer demand. The child who is going to otherwise end up in residential care, who gets training, and then the mother wants that training and she tells her neighbor and so on, you know. And in the field of trauma, it is the quote untreatable patients that are treatable. This begins to challenge a lot of this language. It definitely challenges this. You hear from Jay and me all the time. It challenges the DSM straight out, prima facie challenge to the DSM. These 157 different diagnoses don't exist. There has to be some other paradigm. You take on the APA and the other APA and the dominant paradigm and the drug companies, and there's almost a part of me that says, Pete, give us a break. It's like, this is a huge endeavor, but it is where it's the truth of it. And when you get people, when I was writing the book, I would say, I'm so glad I'm only writing about developmental trauma. I've not even talking about PTSD. I'm talking about one particular thing, because if I had to cover all of these other presumed diagnoses in this book, I would be completely lost. I wouldn't know how. I wouldn't have a pedestal in a way. So I think that's at least the beginning in the way that I think about what this field is up against, and that it is as robust as it is now, and there are more and more practitioners. I can Google neurofeedback in any major city, and there's somebody there.
Yeah.
How good they are, but that would be true of therapy too, right? If I say Google, I'm trying to find a psychotherapist, I wouldn't have no idea how good they were until I did, had a conversation with them and how good a fit they were for me or for whoever I'm sending. So,
well, they have a license, right? You don't need a license for this. The regulation that's kind of why I always say I wish there was some more regulation to separate.
There's a license, but that's no guarantee of anything. But no, I mean, it's a guarantee that they were licensed, right? At least theoretically. But I'm also a big supporter of BCAA. I believe that, all of the people that I've worked with, I say, get your BCAA certification, because it is the only certifying body. And we're not just because of that, because it has evolved its own understanding of what neurofeedback is, open to that. And we need a definition. We need a body. We need this. So, but I'm just saying, you're saying, why isn't it in colleges? I think it will be in colleges way after there is a great deal of consumer demand. And then people are going to say, I need to go to college for this. Why am I having to go and do all these workshops after I'm a 40-year-old professional? And now I have to, and I've never learned about this. That period may be coming. And maybe even in my lifetime, I don't know.
I'd like to go back to something that Sebern was talking about. One of the things I think in this paradigm shift that we're talking about is the concept of treatment versus training. And the medical psychological community, the language is all about treatment. And the patient client person comes in and expects to be treated. And what we do is training. And that is a completely different paradigm when the client comes in to receive training, to learn how to access a skill, to develop a new skill. It's a lot more like musical instruction or sports instruction or any other kind of training than it is a treatment. I'm not treating my clients. I'm training my clients so that they have choice, so that they can make selections about their physiological state, their neurophysiological state, their emotional psychological state. It's a hard process, a difficult process to get people on board with that concept in terms of the larger professional community, medical psychological community, because they've been doing treatment forever. And even though psychotherapy is training, no matter what you call it, it's really training. It's not treatment. We still call it treatment. And so if we start moving in this direction, then we think of people as being trainers. And so, where do you go to learn how to be a personal trainer? Well, first of all, you probably just do it at the at the gym and pick it up, and then you start offering your services as a personal trainer. I think your idea, Pete, of doing community college to train techs, I think that's an excellent idea. I think that's a perfect platform for it. It's relatively inexpensive. It's structured enough to offer this kind of approach, and it's flexible enough to incorporate this kind of new information.
And John, it's a hands-on thing. You know,
Yep.
You can't go to YouTube. I mean, you have to
Yep.
you have to know how to touch somebody, which you
Exactly.
tried to teach me a couple times, but it's a hands-on thing. It takes practice to do. And getting back to Fred, when I say voice, who is going to be representing all of us in Washington to get the lawmakers to kind of look at this thing and figure out how are we going to get the insurance companies to pay for this? Because a lot of moms and dads don't have the money to pay out of pocket for it.
Yep.
Our field has to have the science platform for the academics to stand on to teach. And that's been developing over the years. Let me share a graphic. This goes from 1970s until now, basically. And these are publications in major search engines. And you can see that there was an initial surge that kind of petered out. The government funding for neurofeedback basically quit in the 70s and 80s. But the clinical applications have fostered the field. Out-of-pocket clients paying for therapies, but researchers doing publications as well. And you can see this exponential increase. This is very recent. And let's say today, every university cranked out high-level programs with high-quality students coming out. They're going to be junior partners in a practice. It's going to take them 4 or 5 years before they can kind of practice the way they have learned and want to. They're under somebody else's supervision. It's going to take time to penetrate the clinical practice. And the research that's been done more recently is only now starting to penetrate. So, we see the need, but we have to have the science underpinnings. And you can see the number of publications and positive publications. We've got lots of studies that now show that, after you're done training somebody, you've gone from intake to outtake, and they've gotten better. If you do 6-month follow-up, placebo effects usually start to wash out. 1-year follow-up, usually placebo effects are gone. But they find neurofeedback actually gets better. From intake to outtake to follow-up, they get even better at follow-up. So it's something that they've learned. It's a skill set that they've learned that's been trained, and it's not some ephemeral effect that fades away like a placebo effect. So our field needs the science to stand on. The science is there if you actually look at the research. It's quite often that if you ask a psychiatrist or a neurologist about neurofeedback, they kind of roll their eyes and say, well, I think it's placebo effect, or I don't think it lasts. I mean, there's critiques, but they're uninformed. If they actually had the research that's current in their head, they wouldn't be saying such foolishness. So I've enjoyed being able to actually go head-to-head or toe-to-toe with physician groups that were rather anti-EEG, QEEG, and neurofeedback. I'm happy to do discussions with them because the science and publications support what we do. And if you're not informed, it becomes really quite obvious with a little bit of discussion. So it's been fun across the years, kind of crossing intellectual swords with various groups because the science is there. All you need to do is get into an honest, open discussion. If they're an open-minded skeptic, that's all we need. If we get a little bit of acceptance, go ahead and try it. They end up seeing the results. Like Sebern's experience of her own training opened her eyes to what could be done. And interaction with groups of physicians, I've had very good success having them become open-minded skeptics. And again, once they get some experience with this field, it's the crack cocaine of education. Once they're on it, they're absolutely hooked on this stuff. So I'm happy to see them get exposed to the field, because once they're in it, they can't help themselves. It's just too good to pass up.
But Jay, they all say, show me the studies. There's so many studies out there. Who is the voice that says, look, here's the research? All the people that say, show me the data, it's right here.
It has to be done one application area at a time. The screen share that I just did is basically a brief that was written up in an attempt to get insurance to cover ADD, ADHD as an application, and the publication is this publication. Brain Futures is a group that was basically lobbying. This is a very well done. They don't overclaim or overstate anything. They have absolutely solid evidence. I have to disclose I'm one of their unpaid consultants on this, along with Martijn Arns, David Cantor, Fred. I mean, there's Mark, and these are all, and Donna, who was on the show previously, Angels and Assassins author. So these are folks. This goes through an executive summary, literally point by point by point, going through the increase in diagnosis of ADD, ADHD across time. This is absolutely solid, evidence-based support. And this brief is not old. It's I think a 2020 brief, if I'm not mistaken. And this kind of presentation for other applications is needed. This was extremely well done, and it had enough support to actually start to influence the insurance coverage out on the East Coast. But that's always, insurance coverage is, state insurance commissioner, one state at a time. And it's tedious, but this is the kind of publication that's going to end up making a difference. So I'm happy to see it.
Man, I hate to complain about things without a solution. Okay, I got this podcast going. What else can I do to get? Okay, if that's the study, what can I do? Do I have to go to Washington, D.C.? What can Pete Janssens do if I had a magic wand, guys? I'm here. I'm listening.
You need to get on Oprah.
Oprah?
Oprah.
There are some smaller things that are going on, and Oprah would present her own. That would swamp us. That would, the consumer demand would be huge. I don't know very many neurofeedback people who have empty slots. Just to be real about this, right? It's like we're all filled up. So the thing that I've devoted myself to in this stage,
not in the Midwest,
this stage in my life is to train more people, right? To be engaged in the training. And of course, part of the problem, or maybe part of the gift of this being the Brain Futures piece being focusing on ADHD, is that almost everybody gets diagnosed with ADHD. So that makes it very useful, right? But in smaller terms, I think, or in other ways, Joy Lunt and Mark Trulinger have been, before, again, COVID has messed up a lot of things, but the two of them have been really penetrating the whole way insurance actually gets done. And those may be two people that have on the show at some point to see where this is, where their efforts are. to get reimbursement for neurofeedback, but at a higher rate than with psychotherapy, because there are equipment costs and training costs that psychotherapists don't typically have to encounter.
It's kind of, I don't know if the theme is relationship or what, but there was a postdoc who he was trained at McMaster University, did a postdoc in Austria, and then he came back to the Department of Psychiatry to work with Margaret McKinnon, and he had worked with Ruth Lanius at Western University in Ontario. And he presented a wonderful grand rounds to the Department of Psychiatry on his work with PTSD in Europe. So there's this, cross-Atlantic connection. And so he's working in EEG biofeedback in part at a strong medical school. Up the escarpment, there's a strong community college. It's called Mohawk College. And they have a program to train rehabilitation therapists in brain disorders and various types of rehabilitation. And so they purchased some neurofeedback equipment and are learning how to use it. And the hope is that they will connect with their colleagues at the university. The model being in Ontario, where there are numerous community college university collaborations, where they say at the Mohawk McMaster collaboration, they produce students with BSCNs in nursing. But there's a path formed through these relationships so that someone can start at a technician level or a very elementary level, and then if it suits them, grow into becoming a psychiatrist or a social worker or a nurse who can practice neurofeedback.
What more can we do as advocates? AAPB has published what I consider to be a very conservative review of the efficacy literature in biofeedback and neurofeedback. Jay was part of the original task force that created the efficacy standards that we have used in the first 3 editions and will use in the 4th. You were president of ISNR at the time that Don Moss was president of AAPB, and together you collaborated to create a task force that would define what efficacy meant in the different levels. Well, we're coming on in early fall, the 4th edition of evidence-based practice in biofeedback and neurofeedback. AAPB will be publishing it, and it will be worth purchasing. And the reason it's worth purchasing is it will show the evidence base and the level of efficacy for a very large number of applications, including neurofeedback applications. And as just one teaser, the 2022 rating for depression will be the highest level, which is level 5, efficacious and specific. Previously, it had only been level 4, but there were more independent randomized controlled trials. Again, echoing what Jay said, there's been an explosion of research, particularly in neurofeedback. And with better design, better powered studies, we have more compelling evidence of efficacy. So I will let you know when it is available. And then if you want to share that, perhaps you can book Ina Khazan, who is the editor for evidence-based. There are a number of other characters who you could also book, who are on that task force. Don Moss being one, Randy Lyle is another. And we do this for love. This is something we do for the field, and it's been over a year, probably a year and a half in coming. So this is a way that a practitioner can educate their colleagues about the scientific basis for biofeedback and neurofeedback interventions.
Sounds like a good Christmas present, right?
Oh, yes.
Think
That's
about
stocking
it.
stuff.
Think about it for Christmas. Yes, right, for sure.
Fred Shaffer, John Davis, that's an easy one. John Anderson, our old buddy, all from BioSource Software. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us, Pete.
Hey, Fred, I know you don't like to hawk your product, but for the people that are interested, what's the best way for our listeners and viewers to learn more about BioSource?
Just go to biosource.com and we have our legacy website right now. And in another 2 months, we will have a pretty website. Our products are out there. And again, just kick the tires, drive it around the block, see what's a good fit for you.
Is that what we call this podcast, a legacy podcast, Jay?
I think it's a bit too slick to be considered legacy.
Slick. That's the first time I've heard that. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching NeuroNoodles, Neurofeedback, and Neuropsychology podcast. We'd like to thank our Patreon business supporters. We are supported by listeners and businesses just like you, like our gold supporter, Applied Neuroscience Incorporated, the creators of NeuroGuide, the premier EEG assessment and training software whose demo version can be downloaded from the link here. Hey, attend ANI's pre-conference workshop at the ISNR 2022 conference Wednesday, July 27th between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. The workshop will concentrate on assessment and protocol preparation using the Neuro Navigator and the symptom checklist, which includes cerebellar ROIs and uses SW Loretta for more precise targeting and cross-frequency coupling. Training will be introduced. And hey, if you want a coupon code, email Pete at neuronoodle.com. I'll hook you up. Learn more at appliedneuroscience.com/neuroguide. Hey, Mary Tracy's Neurotraining Strategies offers a higher standard of EEG, QEEG education to EEG clinicians, technicians, and neurofeedback practitioners with their convenient online BCIA and QEEG certified didactic courses. Check them out at eegstrategies.com. Hey, Mind Media's Nexus Amplifier. Hey, full disclosure, Pete's been a customer for years, but check them out. They got a semi-dry cap coming out. You can see it live at ISNR. Say hello to great connectivity and goodbye to artifacts and paste in your client's hair. Check them out at mindmedia.com. 3 things our listeners can do to help us spread the word of neurofeedback. Number 1, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Number 2, give us a review on whatever platform you listen to. 5 stars is appreciated, but Jay Gunkelman will accept 4.5. Hey, if you have the means, please support us on Patreon/NeuroNoodle. There are different levels in which you can support us, whether you're a mom or dad or a clinician. There's even an option where you can have your own Q&A with our own Jay Gunkelman. This support helps us improve the quality of our content. Hey, trying to get these video edits even better, even better. Again, we thank you all for watching. Cue the non-copyrighted music.